We have a fascinating stack of sources here, tracing the history and the mechanical brilliance of a true puzzle game landmark.
We are diving deep into a game that proves the world's most famous plumber is actually, well, a medical professional. A game that launched simultaneously on two iconic platforms back in July 1990.
The Family Computer and the Game Boy.
We are, of course, talking about Dr. Mario. That deceptively simple, often infuriating falling block puzzler that really redefined a genre and, conquered an entirely new demographic.
This wasn't just some simple spin-off. I mean, this was a strategically sophisticated entry that arrived right in the slipstream of the global Tetris phenomenon. But what stands out immediately is its purpose. It carved out its own niche, based on physics and chemistry rather than just pure geometry. It's a foundational piece of puzzle design.
Exactly. And the hook here is fascinating. Why did Mario suddenly put on a stethoscope? And more importantly, why did this seemingly cute little puzzle game become the one game your parents, or maybe even your grandparents, were strangely good at?
That's the real mystery.
So our mission today is to go deep into that pill bottle. We're going to be analyzing the ingenious simplicity and the hidden depths. We're focusing heavily on the home console experience, the absolutely brilliant versus mode that made it a competitive mainstay, and why the struggle against those three highly annoying mocking viruses is still incredibly real, even 30 years later.
Get ready for a discussion about high-stakes, high-speed medical drama, the kind of chaos we call haka-meka, played out with primary colors and, let's be honest, some questionable medical ethics.
The game is simple, but the struggle is profoundly, profoundly frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
So let's start with the narrative setting, because honestly, the transition from jumping on turtles to managing infectious disease outbreak is just peak Nintendo absurdity.
It really is.
We're not in a Mushroom Kingdom anymore. We are in a hospital or, maybe a research lab, and Mario is now a full-fledged researcher/doctor, stethoscope and all.
And our sources confirm the plot is pretty dramatic. It's extracted straight from the original Famicom manual. And the scenario is just perfectly set up for chaos.
Right.
Nurse Peach, of course, she's the nurse, rushes in, distraught, and tells Dr. Mario that a new type of virus has been discovered, and it's multiplying rapidly inside the bottle.
The implication being that it's completely out of control.
Total containment failure.
And Mario, being the confident, perhaps wildly overconfident or under-certified doctor he is, he responds immediately. There's no hesitation, no need for a peer review.
No.
He just declares that his newly completed special remedy, which looks suspiciously like two brightly colored candy blocks, will handle it. His exact quote right from the manual is, "This stuff works great."
It's the perfect early 90s game setup. I mean, low stakes, high enthusiasm, no clinical trials needed, just gigantic capsules being launched down a vertical glass container.
The bin, as they call it.
Yeah, the bin or the bottle. And this is the stage for our entire strategic struggle.
And that remedy is the core mechanic. The genius, I think, lies in its immediate accessibility. The rules were simple enough that they didn't require high technical literacy, which is exactly why it reached a non-traditional gaming audience so effectively.
It's a standard falling block format, but unlike Tetris, which uses, 4-block structures to clear horizontal lines, Dr. Mario is all about alignment. You drop these 2-block capsules, and crucially, each capsule is split into 2 halves, which could be the same color or different colors.
Right, and the core goal is elementary. You just align 4 or more blocks of the same color. And that alignment can be made of capsule halves, full capsules, or one of the 3 viruses already stuck in the bottle.
Just 4 in a row, either vertically or horizontally. Diagonal matches are ignored, which keeps the focus really sharp and grid-based.
And that act of clearing is so perfectly themed. It's not just clearing lines.
No, it's disinfection or sterilization. It fits the medical narrative perfectly. You're literally wiping out the infection one color group at a time.
And the objective isn't just to prevent the stack from reaching the top, though that is the failure condition. The main objective is to eliminate the pre-existing obstacles, the viruses themselves.
Exactly. We have to talk about the 3 threats because they are iconic in their pixelated rage. In the bright, vibrant Famicom version, they were instantly recognizable primary colors: red, blue, and yellow.
And they were given just enough animation and facial features to feel like antagonists, They were always looking up at you, kind of mockingly, daring you to clear them. That simple anthropomorphization was just key to the game's charm.
Yeah, it was. But the Game Boy version, which came out at the same time, had an immediate challenge because of the monochrome screen.
Right. How do you distinguish 3 different colors with only 4 shades of gray?
It forced some clever design. Instead of red, blue, and yellow, you had white, black, and gray. But the key insight our sources reveal is that they didn't just rely on shades. They made the gray virus display as a mottled or speckled pattern. This was crucial. It ensured that on that small, often blurry green screen display, the gray virus was visually distinct enough from pure white and pure black, even in, bad lighting.
That's a wonderful piece of technical compromise. They just prioritized visual clarity over pure color realism.
But let's get into the scoring, because this is where Dr. Mario really pivots philosophically from other Falling Block games. It gives you a very specific strategic directive.
This is a critical distinction, and it goes right back to the core mission: disinfection. In Tetris, clearing lines, whether you meant to or not, gives you points. In Dr. Mario, points are only added when actual viruses are destroyed.
0 points for clearing capsules alone.
Exactly. You can set up and execute these massive multi-step chain reactions. The Wrens are using only capsule pieces. But if no viruses are destroyed in that process, the game gives you a big fat 0 on the score counter. So the pieces are just the delivery vehicle. The primary objective is the obstacle, those fixed, mocking viruses. You're constantly playing catch-up against the setup that's already there.
That one rule immediately forces you to focus not on efficient stacking, but on targeted eradication. Every single piece drop is analyzed based on its ability to reach, support, or destroy a specific remaining virus.
And of course, failure is inevitable when you tackle higher levels or speeds. The game over condition is standard. Capsules stack up, they block the bottle's opening, and you can't drop any more remedies. Dr. Mario has failed the patient. The viruses win.
But there's a small, beautiful slice of mercy built into that failure condition. A rule that sometimes saves you in a moment of just pure desperation.
The disinfection priority exception.
Yes. If you place a vertical capsule that clears a row, and the top half of that capsule is intersecting or overlapping the bottle mouth, the technical game over line, the virus clearance takes absolute priority.
It's a miracle.
The game recognizes the act of disinfection as superior to the physical transgression of hitting the ceiling.
You're sweating, you know you're about to lose, you spin that last capsule into place, it clears the stack, and even though the piece is technically touching the lid, you live to fight another day.
It rewards that last-second Hail Mary and injects a moment of immense, unexpected relief into an otherwise brutal system.
It's a subtle, but I think brilliant design choice that reinforces the core theme. As long as you are actively fighting the infection, the system is willing to give you a pass. It rewards the offensive player.
Absolutely.
So now that we understand the rules, let's talk about the experience itself. Why did this simple Formula 4 in a row become so intensely addictive, yet so strategically demanding?
Well, the addiction factor comes from that quick, positive feedback loop. The early levels start with a very sparse virus count, just 4 viruses in level 1. The rules are simple, and players feel like medical geniuses right away.
Yeah.
That rapid success draws everyone in, regardless of their gaming background.
They hook you instantly. You think, I'm mastering this. Why did I ever struggle with Tetris? But then the strategic complexity of the 2-block capsule structure kicks in, and that is where the difficulty truly escalates. That's where the frustration starts.
The 2-block headache. This is the defining source of friction. The capsule is a rigid 2-square unit. And while matching colors is easy, manipulating that rigid unit to squeeze into narrow, single-square gaps deep within a dense virus pile is notoriously difficult.
It's a geometry problem.
Yeah.
You spend half your time trying to get a horizontal capsule to drop vertically into a 2-square wide gap, or worse, trying to thread a single block into a 1-square hole, knowing the other half of the capsule is just going to land on something useless.
And you're operating under speed constraints in the higher levels, so you're frantically mashing the rotate button, trying to line it up perfectly, only for the capsule to snag on a piece 1 row higher.
Oh, the worst.
It lands 1 square over from where you needed it, trapping a crucial blue virus under a useless red capsule piece.
Absolute sheer torture. I remember vividly yelling at the screen, just go in the gap, why are you landing there? This mechanical constraint, trying to make a wide piece fit into a narrow vertical space, is why the game demands such excruciatingly precise control. It feels less like a puzzle and more like trying to thread a needle while running a sprint.
And that difficulty is intentional. It gives the game a significantly higher skill ceiling than a simple 4-in-a-row mechanic might imply. But the true strategic depth, the thing that separates the novice from the master, is understanding the floating virus physics.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where Dr. Mario completely departs from its contemporaries and becomes more of an engineering challenge. In most falling block games, pieces adhere to gravity immediately. You clear something underneath, everything above it drops.
Right.
But here, the viruses are floating.
Correct. When you drop a capsule, it falls until it hits another capsule piece or the bottom of the bottle. However, if it hits a virus, it settles on top of that virus, and the virus acts as a fixed support. The pieces above it stay suspended in midair.
So the viruses act like fixed foundation blocks, regardless of what's underneath them, which is, super counterintuitive for a falling block game player.
Precisely. But here is the critical exception, the key feature for generating huge scores and for competitive advantage. If that fixed floating virus is cleared by a 4-in-a-row match, then the capsules or capsule fragments resting directly above it suddenly utilize gravity and drop down.
Gravity finally kicks in, but only after the foundation is destroyed.
Yes, and this is the mechanic we call RENSA, or chain reaction. It transforms the game from a simple vertical matching exercise into a complex structural engineering problem. You have to think several steps ahead about how destroying a seemingly benign piece at the bottom will realign everything stacked above it.
So this means the most advanced strategy isn't just clearing the viruses closest to the top to save space. It's about strategically stacking unnecessary pieces high up, ensuring they're suspended by a single, isolated virus far below, and then clearing that one virus with a targeted drop.
And the resulting cascade can clear half the bottle in one move.
It's the difference between being a good Tetris player who focuses on clearing lines efficiently and a good Dr. Mario player who focuses on structural demolition. You are deliberately setting up future collapses. It demands both spatial foresight and precise timing, especially at higher speeds.
And if the single-player game often felt like a frustrating battle against luck and geometry, that two-block headache, the potential for the RENSA collapse is the ultimate payoff. It makes the tedious cleanup work occasionally worth it.
For sure. And we can't overlook the sensory experience, which reinforced the addiction. The graphic and sound design were simple, but incredibly effective at giving you that sense of accomplishment.
The viruses themselves were designed brilliantly. They weren't just primary colored blobs, they had these unique, humorous, and oddly expressive pixelated faces, which were made even more prominent in the bottom left magnifying glass view.
They really felt like antagonists you're battling.
And the satisfaction, the sheer schadenfreude of watching them get annihilated was perfectly executed. When you successfully clear a color, the corresponding viruses on the left side of the screen momentarily flip over in pain. They're writhing and struggling before they are completely wiped out, or shimetsu.
That moment of visual confirmation, seeing the enemies suffer before they're annihilated, is so critical to the game's reward mechanism. It makes the repetitive action feel meaningful, reinforcing the fact that you genuinely earned that moment of disinfection. It's a small detail, but it's perfectly executed. It makes you feel genuinely powerful.
Moving from the mechanics to the overall single-player experience, we have to address the iconic soundtrack. The music is arguably as memorable and as important to the game's cultural legacy as the gameplay itself. You had two BGM choices, Fever and Chill.
Fever. That is the game's signature high-energy, incredibly addictive main theme. It provides the heat, as the translation suggests, and it truly propels you forward, matching the frenetic pace of high-speed play. I'd put it right up there with the main Super Mario Bros. Theme in terms of compositional brilliance and just catchiness.
It creates that sense of emergency and intensity that defines the Dr. Mario experience. However, the BGM choice, Chill, is often the hidden gem, or maybe the unsung hero, for players who didn't want that constant driving energy.
The cold or shivers theme. It's not the default, but it provides a sophisticated, almost calming counterpoint to the chaos. It's perfect for players attempting high levels who need to focus on complex RENSA setups without the relentless pressure of Fever's rhythm.
And here's a real deep-cut nostalgia point that addresses a significant difference between the launch platforms. The highly recognizable second half or chorus part of the Fever theme, the part that really makes the song soar, was added in the Game Boy and Super Famicom versions.
Wait, you're saying the original 1990 Famicom release, which is the primary home console version, was missing the best part of the song? Why?
It was likely a limitation in the sound hardware or just the initial arrangement chosen by the composer, Hirokazu Tanaka. The FC version featured a shorter, punchier loop, so players who experienced the FC version first were often left with this subconscious yearning for that extended section when they later heard the complete grand arrangement on the Game Boy or SNES.
That's amazing. It's like realizing years later that the version of a classic pop song you loved as a kid was just the radio edit, and there's a much richer extended dance mix out there. It makes those later versions feel like a true upgrade.
But while the music kept the energy up, we have to talk about the primary drawback of the single-player experience, especially when you're attempting serious high scores. And that's the mid-game slump, or the tedium problem.
Ah yes, Sug you can. The feeling that the game becomes sheer repetitive work in the later stages, particularly after level 10 or so. As the initial virus count increases dramatically and you introduce more chaos, you inevitably leave behind these residual, unwanted capsule fragments.
This is the enemy of fun. Maybe you needed a blue-blue piece to clear a column, but you only had a red-blue. Now you have a useless red fragment stuck on top of the stack, preventing you from reaching other viruses. The necessity to dedicate multiple turns solely to clearing these scattered junk capsule pieces, just to create space or reach a crucial virus below, that just amplifies the repetitive, tedious feeling.
It transitions from disinfection into pure digital housekeeping. You stop playing strategically against the viruses and start playing structurally against your own mess. You feel less like a heroic doctor and more like a janitor fighting stubborn trash. That sense of slowdown and cleanup is really the Achilles heel of the single-player mode.
And this tedium is made worse by the infamous luck factor, or ungo. While skill is paramount, the reliance on the random number generator for capsule drops introduces an element of arbitrary difficulty that high-level players just despise.
I remember the sheer arbitrary unfairness of the initial virus arrangement. 2 stages at level 15 could have wildly different difficulty curves depending on how the initial 60 viruses were placed. You might start with 3 isolated columns that are easy to clear.
Or you get 3 dense, multicolored clusters that require a dozen turns just to penetrate.
Exactly. And when you are playing at high speeds, you inevitably reach a critical moment where you desperately need a specific color sequence, say red-red or a blue-yellow combination to set up a Rensa. But the game keeps feeding you the wrong combinations.
That failure to receive the needed color capsule leads to excess stacking and a dead end, or sumu, stuck.
It feels like the machine is actively mocking your strategic brilliance. You planned the Rensa perfectly, but the random number generator gives you 3 irrelevant colors in a row, forcing you to use them awkwardly and ruining your entire setup. Victory is then determined by the algorithm, not your skill.
It demands perfection in high-speed, high-density environments, but then denies you the tools to achieve that perfection. It's especially frustrating because, unlike Tetris, where you can typically make use of any incoming piece by lining it horizontally, the rigidity of the 2-block capsule in Dr. Mario makes unwanted pieces harder to manage and bury.
Let's pivot to the platform-specific frustrations now, focusing on the original 1990 releases. The FTC version, while vibrant, used bright red, blue, and yellow primary colors against a dark background. While intuitive, long sessions could absolutely cause significant eye fatigue. They were almost too vibrant for prolonged, intense focus.
That eye strain was a real issue for marathon players. But the Game Boy version, the handheld companion, introduced a structural flaw related to screen real estate that made high-level play nearly impossible.
The Game Boy screen was just smaller.
Yeah.
How did that translate strategically?
The Game Boy screen physically displayed 1 less row at the top compared to the FC version. This seems minimal, but in a game where the difference between life and death is often a single block of vertical space, that missing row becomes lethal.
So that cramped space means you hit the ceiling, the game over line, much faster. It cuts down the margin for error by a significant percentage.
Precisely. The source material highlights this as the fatal flaw of the portable version, noting that high difficulty stages on the Game Boy, specifically level 20, Speed HI, often devolve into being almost purely a luck game, or Hotondo on Go.
Wow.
With 84 viruses to clear and almost no buffer space, victory is nearly impossible without an absolutely perfect preordained sequence of drops. The system gave you so little room for strategic error that pure randomness just ruled the day.
The ultimate difficulty setting. Level 20, Speed HI on a Game Boy, standing under harsh fluorescent light, trying to discern the mottled gray virus from the black one, all while knowing you have 1 less row of safety buffer. That is the definition of a nightmare scenario. It truly demanded a perfect, high-speed execution that few players could sustain.
While the single-player mode grappled with issues of tedium, spatial frustration, and luck dependence, Nintendo found the perfect cure.
Which was?
Pointing that frustration directly at a friend. The competitive multiplayer mode is widely declared the game's greatest asset and the reason for its incredible longevity.
This is where Dr. Mario truly became legendary. The chaos, the speed, the psychological warfare, it's phenomenal. The fact that this 1990 mode is still highly engaging and popular today, including on Nintendo Switch Online, it just speaks volumes about its balanced design.
The winning conditions are simple and intensely focused. Clear all your viruses first, or successfully stack pieces on your opponent's screen until they get a game over. First player to 3 rounds wins the match.
It's a rapid-fire, best-of-5 format.
The attack mechanic, though, is what makes the competition unique and strategically distinct from other puzzle games that would follow. When you clear 2 or more chain reactions, or Rensa, you send junk capsules, or half-capsules, to the opponent's screen.
And crucially, the maximum attack is small, only 4 pieces at a time. This is where the competitive philosophy diverges so sharply from games like Puyo Puyo, which specializes in sudden, overwhelming tidal waves of massive, unmatchable garbage blocks.
Right. Dr. Mario's attack is, by comparison, a slow, gentle drip.
And the pieces you send are normal, clearable capsules, not inert garbage. So if your opponent is quick, they can often clear that junk relatively easily, especially if they're already stacked high and setting up a vertical match.
Which raises an important question. If the attack is so small and easily manageable, why is the VS mode considered so fiercely competitive?
Exactly. Why didn't players just ignore the junk pieces entirely and race to clear the viruses?
Because of the time delay the junk imposes. This is the secret weapon of the Dr. Mario VS mode. When those junk capsules descend onto the opponent's screen, they descend very slowly, and the opponent is completely unable to manipulate or drop a new piece until all the incoming junk has completely landed and settled.
Ah, so the attack isn't about massive board destruction. It's about freezing the opponent's clock and disrupting their flow at a critical moment.
Yep.
It's psychological warfare and time management wrapped into one.
Precisely. You gain precious, potentially game-winning seconds in the race to clear the viruses. If you execute a quick 2-chain Rensa, you send 2 or 3 pieces to the opponent, forcing them to pause their input for the duration of that slow descent.
So it makes the victory condition of clearing all viruses first the dominant aggressive strategy. You aim to interrupt their flow and buy yourself the time necessary to finish your disinfection while they just wait for your junk to trickle down.
And it fundamentally changes the strategic priority. You're incentivized to play fast and vertically, focusing on clearing viruses efficiently, rather than spending time building massive, risky, multi-stage Rensas that might fail because of the luck factor.
And what solidified this mode as a masterpiece of competitive design was the robust handicap system. It recognized that friends often have wildly different skill levels, and it provided a perfect mechanism to level the playing field without sacrificing integrity.
It was brilliantly implemented, offering really granular control. You could set the initial conditions for both players completely independently based on 2 variables, level 0-20 and speed, LOW, MED, HIR.
The difference in starting conditions is staggering. There are 21 stages. Level 1 starts with a mere 4 viruses, but by level 20, the bottle is packed with 84 of them. That difference alone is a massive handicap that requires orders of magnitude more strategic effort.
The chaos of a truly unbalanced match must have been hilarious. Imagine a seasoned older sibling being set on level 20, speed HI, battling 84 rapidly falling viruses, while the novice younger sibling starts on level 1, speed low W, with only 4 slow-moving viruses. The novice could win in 3 moves.
And yet, it remains fair, because the skilled player still has the ability to execute chains and send junk. But the novice has the numerical advantage and the time buffer. This allowed families and friends of varying skill levels to genuinely enjoy competitive play together, which was, revolutionary for the time.
And the final piece of competitive drama is the constant on-screen display showing the exact number of remaining viruses for both players.
Oh, that counter. That counter is pure, intense psychological tension. It forces you into that internal monologue that drives competitive players mad. You're constantly watching the numbers, comparing your remaining viruses to your opponents.
You're thinking, I only have 5 left, I'm about to win. Then suddenly, wait, why did my opponent's number suddenly drop from 18 to 2 in a single move? Oh no, they hit a secret Rensa.
The pressure just mounts exponentially as those numbers tick down, ensuring every versus match, regardless of the score, is a neck-and-neck competitive experience.
That simple UI element is the engine of the drama. It's the moment bragging rights are earned or lost, broadcast live on the screen. It is what elevates the VS mode into timeless competitive chaos.
So Dr. Mario entered the market at a crucial time. It followed the global explosion of Tetris and helped solidify the whole puzzle game concept in the mainstream, just before Puyo Puyo came along and added its own layers of complexity. And it was a certified, massive commercial success.
It sold approximately 4.85 million copies on the Famicom and 5.34 million on the Game Boy worldwide by 2022. That's over 10 million units, making it one of Nintendo's key early cross-platform hits.
Those numbers are staggering. But the key insight isn't just the quantity of sales, it's the quality of the audience expansion. The game was uniquely popular among middle-aged people and women, the shufusu or the housewife demographic.
This brings us to the ultimate nostalgia hook for so many people today. The mom was good at this legend, or the Okan phenomenon. Online forums are just rife with stories about how, out of all the complex Nintendo games available, Zelda, Mega Man, Mario platformers, Dr. Mario was the one game their mother or father completely mastered.
It speaks volumes about the game's core design. It had Mario, a recognizable friendly face, but the mechanic itself, aligning colors, was far less intimidating than the twitch reflexes required for a platformer or the complex spatial visualization needed for Tetris. It was approachable and intuitive, using a familiar grid and matching concept.
And this acceptance provided a significant social impact, especially in Japan during an era when video games were often viewed as a solitary, time-wasting, or even harmful distraction for children. If mom or dad was playing Dr. Mario, suddenly the Famicom became a household appliance, not just a child's toy.
Exactly. Users frequently recount that their parents finally understood and genuinely enjoyed one of their games, creating a bridge between generations. Dr. Mario normalized gaming in the household in a way that the intense, narrative-driven RPGs or complex platformers never could. It was a cultural bridge builder, proving that games could be an activity for everyone.
Beyond the living room, the game had significant visibility on television, which cemented its competitive popularity. It was featured prominently in the popular Super Mario Club TV show's National Famicom King contest.
This was intense weekly television. They treated it like a legitimate sport. The chosen standard for these televised competitive battles was Level 15, Speed MED.
And that setting was ideal. Level 15 has 60 starting viruses, making it dense enough to require skill but slow enough, at MED speed, to allow for complex Rensa setups and strategy without devolving into pure luck or unbo.
And the stakes were incredibly high for the time. Winners of 3 consecutive weeks became grand champions, and the subsequent competitions led to the crowning of super grand champions. They turned a simple falling block puzzle into a national spectator sport, showcasing the dramatic tension of that visible virus counter in a high-pressure environment.
It reinforced the idea that skill in a puzzle game was a legitimate, televised talent. The sheer drama of watching 2 players frantically try to execute complex chain reactions on a dense level 15 board, all while being delayed by the opponent's slow-drip jump capsules. It must have been captivating for the viewing audience. This constant media exposure helped maintain its popularity for years.
So Dr. Mario proved its staying power by reappearing across nearly every subsequent Nintendo console, showing the company understood the enduring value of the mechanics. Though, not all releases were successful. Let's start with a major commercial misstep, the Super Famicom remake.
The Satellaview and Nintendo Power cartridge era. This SFC version, initially known as Dr. Mario BS and later released via the Nintendo Power cartridge write-in service, was essentially based on the US Tetris and Dr. Mario SNES release.
Right.
It featured upgraded graphics, the complete extended FIVU BGM, and added a crucial CPU versus mode.
That sounds like a definitive version. Why was it such a commercial failure?
The timing was just disastrous. It was released in 1998. This was the peak of the console transition wars. The PlayStation was dominating the market, the N64 was already established, and the Nintendo Power Service itself.
Where you had to bring a blank cartridge to a convenience store.
Exactly, to a Lawson to write the game onto it.
Yeah.
That service was limited, expensive, and really niche.
So why spend premium money on a limited release of an 8-year-old Famicom game when everyone was focused on 3D graphics and N64 titles?
Precisely. It was expensive, limited distribution, and released on aging 16-bit hardware during a 3D generational shift. It was completely overlooked. Even among the few Nintendo Power users, many thought, if it's the same game, I already own it on the Famicom. It demonstrates that superior graphics and a new mode can't overcome a fundamentally poor market strategy and release timing.
However, the legacy continued successfully into the 64 and GameCube era with Dr. Mario 64. This title introduced substantial new mechanics and modes, showing the developers were actively trying to address that single-player tedium problem.
Dr. Mario 64 was pivotal. It added a full, albeit simple, story mode, Mario vs. Wario trying to recover stolen medicine, and introduced entirely new game modes designed to change the pace.
The new modes added depth beyond the classic single-player loop. We saw Flash Mode, which addressed the tedious cleanup issue by only requiring the player to clear specific shining viruses. The goal shifted from total eradication to targeted surgical strikes.
And then there was Endurance Mode, which introduced continuous pressure. Viruses constantly rise from the bottom of the bottle, similar to mechanics found in Panel de Pon or Tetris Attack. This forced players to play at an aggressive, non-stop pace, completely negating the slow, clean-up-focused Sagyukan that plagued the original.
And the competitive focus was still key, too. The GameCube version, released within the Nintendo Puzzle Collection, went even further, introducing 4-player tag battles. It cemented the competitive chaos as the series' core strength.
The game mechanics have also been resurrected in very surprising clinical contexts, most notably within the popular brain training series.
That's right. The core color matching mechanics were cleverly adopted into the brain training series as a subgame called Bacteria Eradication, or a Seiken Bokumetsu. This used touch controls on the DS and proved popular enough to be bundled in later releases.
And this lineage gave us Dr. Luigi and Bacteria Eradication on the Wii U. Luigi's version was noteworthy because it introduced L-shaped capsules alongside the standard straight ones, adding a completely new layer of spatial complexity that required much more intense visualization and rotation skills.
Mario's brother often gets the experimental medical treatments.
He does. But perhaps the most surprising and enduring modern presence for Dr. Mario isn't in a puzzle game at all, but in the fighting arena of Super Smash Bros. He appeared as a playable, hidden character in Smash Bros. DX on GameCube.
And this wasn't just mere character filler. The director, Masahiro Sakurai, explicitly stated that Dr. Mario was included specifically so they could justify using an arrangement of that iconic Fever BGM, including the extended GB and SFC version.
The power of the soundtrack actually dictated a roster slot. That's how influential the music was.
That is truly remarkable. The music was such a crucial piece of Nintendo history that it warranted the inclusion of an otherwise redundant character, even though he was often considered a low-tier clone of Mario, supposedly slower due to a lack of exercise from playing too many puzzle games.
Now, we do have to mention the mobile venture, which attempted to modernize the formula, but ultimately failed. Dr. Mario World was released in 2019. It introduced significant changes. Capsules floated up from the bottom, there was a limited usage count for pieces, and different doctors had special skills.
It was an ambitious attempt to integrate gacha and mobile puzzle mechanics, but it completely missed the mark, likely because it strayed too far from the classic gravitational flow and introduced aggressive monetization. It ceased service after only about 2 years.
It turns out fans wanted the original, simple, chaotic physics, not floating pieces and usage counts.
Exactly. Finally, we have to close this section with the absolute wildest oddity related to the game's cultural footprint. The original Famicom television commercial, the height of 90s Hachimecha absurdity.
Oh, the infamous synchronized swimming ad.
I remember this. It featured several women dressed as the viruses, red, blue, and yellow, performing elaborate, synchronized swimming routines in a pool, complete with the catchy, almost manic Mambo Virus Chan theme song.
A truly high-effort, low-sense commercial that makes absolutely no medical or logistical sense, yet somehow perfectly embodies the early 90s playful, chaotic absurdity of Nintendo marketing. It's unforgettable and profoundly weird.
And those 3 little pixelated viruses were surprisingly versatile guest stars. They even appeared in the non-sale Super Famicom educational game, Otoko-chan's Wonder Kitchen, which was jointly developed with the food corporation Ajinomoto.
Wait, why were the Dr. Mario viruses in a cooking game about condiments?
To explain the sterilizing power of vinegar and mayonnaise, the viruses served as the visual representation of bacteria being wiped out by the acid content of the vinegar.
Wow. From synchronized swimming to cooking science to competitive fighting, those 3 little viruses truly earned their chaotic, multifaceted place in the Nintendo pantheon.
So what does this all mean? Dr. Mario proved that Mario wasn't just a platforming hero confined to pipes and castles. He could successfully jump genres and conquer a completely new demographic.
The game's lasting legacy, however, is built less on its simple single-player experience, which, as we discussed, often got bogged down in tedious cleanup, that Sagchukan and frustrating high-level luck dependence, The Ungay. Its immortality is built almost entirely on its perfectly balanced, chaotic, and dramatic two-player versus mode.
That VS mode, with its robust handicap system and the brilliant, flow-disrupting slow drip time delay attack, created a unique competitive environment that remains fiercely fun and engaging even today. It demanded fast, aggressive vertical play, rewarding efficiency over complex, risky setups.
It was a crucial step in normalizing puzzle games in the mainstream and, far more importantly, normalizing video games in the household by providing a low-barrier entry point that the OCAN demographic could genuinely enjoy alongside their children. It was a bridge builder between generational playstyles.
The ultimate takeaway is that this game, despite its graphical simplicity and its frustrating single-player flaws, had a massive cultural impact, fundamentally shifting the perception of who a gamer was and what a competitive game could be.
Indeed. We know Mario put on a white coat to fight viruses with gigantic capsules, but here is a provocative thought for you to chew on, something to mull over. Considering his willingness to jump into literally any profession, plumber, demolition worker, kart racer, tennis pro, even a certified athlete,
Right.
does Dr. Mario refer to a certified accredited physician with a medical license and malpractice insurance? Or is it just the name of a very enthusiastic, possibly self-proclaimed pill-dropping vigilante who happens to have access to highly potent multicolored capsules?
I'm definitely going with enthusiastic vigilante who has excellent musical taste. And on that note, we'll see you next time for the next deep dive.